Welcome into Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. Chase Senior hanging out here with you. You'll see and hear from Chip coming up here in just a few moments. Here's what we have coming up. The 76ers and Nick Nurse providing injury updates on Joel Embiid, KJ Martin, and a few other players. Why the Sixers' recent signing might be bad news for Joel Embiid's injury status. Been dealing with that foot injury of late. And could Daryl Morey trade for Nick Richards amid some of these front court injuries? Before we talk about all of that, let's talk about this. We're on a push toward 21,000 subscribers. We're 277 people away from that number. What you get when you hit that sub button is year-round Sixers coverage for free, not behind a paywall. It's informative, insightful, entertaining, and it's consistent. So lock us in today and subscribe. As for the latest on Joel Embiid, he will miss his 5th straight game on Tuesday against the Oklahoma City Thunder with a left foot sprain. He originally injured that foot on Christmas in that victory over the Boston Celtics. Sixers win that game over Boston, and you're thinking, we're going to usher in a brand new year. The Sixers are hot. The Sixers are back. What a win over the Celtics. Now, Embiid finished that game. He played 4 games after that, and now he's been out 11 days, missing his 5th straight game in a row. What a disastrous season for Embiid. Hasn't been able to stay healthy. Hasn't been able to consistently stay on the floor. Started off slow. Missed time. Started to play a little bit better. Missing time again. So once again, I don't know how Nick Nurse deals with this. He's probably so over it. And again, I'm just not sure how Daryl Morey gave Joel Embiid a max deal when he's a big man with an injury history on the wrong side of 30. But the Sixers are mismanaging an Embiid injury. Just can't get it right. And Embiid can't stay healthy. So that doesn't obviously help the equation either. Embiid this year averaging 24.5 points, less than 8 rebounds, 45% from the floor. Both the field goal numbers and the three-point numbers, not great, but he was starting to improve, as I noted. And is this a bad sign for Embiid that the Sixers have brought back and re-signed Pete Nance to a 2-way deal just 1 week after waiving him? Why waive Nance just to re-sign him 1 week later? Are you worried that Joel Embiid is going to be out a little bit longer, and you know that you're going to bring in a player who you're familiar with, who you need in the front court because Embiid could be out? So maybe Embiid will be out longer than what the Sixers had anticipated. Keith Pompey with this. Over the last week, Sixers explored all options to fill their vacant 2-way slot, according to a league source. During that time, the team identified its biggest need as a big, given the recent absences of Joel Embiid and Andre Drummond. That led to the re-signing of Pete Nance, the source said. And unfortunately for the Sixers, it starts tonight on Tuesday against the Oklahoma City Thunder, arguably the best team in the NBA. The toughest stretch of the year is coming up. And if Embiid isn't out there, Sixers might be cooked. Look at this gauntlet here. OKC, New York Knicks, Indiana Pacers, Bucks, Nuggets, Cavs, Bulls, Lakers. And then after that, you have the Kings, the Nuggets again, the Celtics, the Mavericks, and the Miami Heat. I mean, that is a stretch right there of 12 games from January to the start of February. That is a very difficult stretch and a gauntlet, and that could be the death nail in the coffin for the Sixers team here in 2024-2025. So predict it. What will the Sixers record be during that 13-game stretch? Let me know down in the comment section right now because, man, that is a brutal slate coming up. Still to come, Nick Nurse with an update on KJ Martin. Nick Richards, is he a trade target for the Sixers? Stay tuned for that coming up just around the corner. But first, let's give a shout out to our friends Game Time for making today's Philadelphia 76ers now possible. If you want to go to a Sixers game, Flyers game, Eagles playoff game, Phillies game, college basketball, college football, concert, comedy show, theater event, that and a whole lot more, you can find all of those tickets all within the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. You get the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed as well. I love the feature, how you can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. That bird's eye view that you get, for instance, of Lincoln Financial Field, also a cool element of the Game Time app, because then if you're very particular about which yard line you want to sit at, you pop up the Game Time app, you look at this aerial view, and you say, hey, I want to sit 40-yard line for Eagles, Rams, and the divisional round. Bet. Tickets available right there. Then you see the view from those seats. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Last-minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed. Kind of a discouraging update here on KJ Martin. He's been out since December 23rd with a left foot stress reaction, and Nick Nurse said he's out of the boot, but he's still not on the court. Doesn't appear close to a return. It's good that he's out of the boot, of course, but not any closer to his return on the basketball floor. And that's disappointing given he was really starting to play well with more opportunities from head coach Nick Nurse. And with the Sixers dealing with all of these injuries here and there, KJ Martin stepped up, gave this team athleticism, gave this team defense, gave this team a floor runner, and gave this team a valuable presence that they were using to their advantage. He gets hurt after playing some really good basketball, the best basketball in his Sixers career, and now we're not sure when he's going to come back. So Chip, have to wonder how this affects his trade value. Deadline coming up in less than a month. And so if he can't get back on the floor before then, team might not want to trade for him.
Yeah, he's kind of the biggest piece the Sixers have to trade right now. Obviously, from a basketball perspective, it sucks because, as you said, he was starting to play a little bit better, and I thought he was fitting well in the rotation, finding his spot. And honestly, since he's been out, Sixers haven't been doing very well. I don't think that's a direct correlation.
Yeah.
But with him now not being on the floor, the Sixers don't really have a whole lot of other options as, mainstays to trade. Now, they can still trade him if he's still injured. There's no rule saying just because KJ is injured, they can't move him. But now teams aren't really able to see him continue his development, continue his growth, and continue to raise that trade value, which, could hurt the Sixers come trade deadline time if they are looking to make an upgrade and they don't really have any other salaries, any other players to fill in there. And, of course, just sucks for him as well, just from a personal level for him because he was starting to play so well, play the best basketball of his career, and then suffered the injury. And I think initially, they weren't sure how severe it was going to be, and now it just seems the timeline for him is getting kind of pushed back more and more and more. So hopefully he does get well soon so he can get himself back out there on the floor and just get back to playing basketball again because I did like what I was seeing out of him.
You thought that was it on the injury front for the Sixers? No, I told you this injury report going into this OKC game is long and windy. Tyrese Maxey, he is questionable. A late addition to the injury report with a left hand sprain. Paul George said he's bored the other day. He's probable. Another late addition with right ankle soreness. Caleb Martin is day-to-day. Listed as questionable on Tuesday against OKC with a groin injury. He missed Sunday's loss against the Orlando Magic. Kyle Lowry going to be out. Fifth straight missed game for the veteran point guard due to a right hip strain. No timetable for his return. And Andre Drummond remains out. He will also miss his fifth straight game with a left toe sprain. Who are the Sixers going to play? They're going to call up myself and Chip and say, bombs away from deep. As for a move the Sixers could make, with the Joel Embiid, Andre Drummond injuries, could the Sixers target Hornets center Nick Richards? That is a name that's coming to the forefront for the Sixers because right now they're kind of desperate at that center spot. And the injuries to two of their bigs, in addition to Adem Bona, has opened up a need for center depth. The Sixers have been a poor rebounding team, even when fully healthy. That goes back to last year when they struggled to rebound the basketball when they were playing the New York Knicks. And Richards reportedly available for a trade. So this year, 2024-2025, the big out of Kentucky, who's a 7-footer, 245 pounds, averaging a shade under 9 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 56% from the floor, 1.2 blocks per game. In 2020, a second-round pick, 42nd overall by the New Orleans Pelicans. Evenly distributed points and rebounds for him while giving you some block shots. So, Chip, your thoughts on a potential trade target here? I guess if Embiid's out for a longer period of time, then this becomes an even bigger need.
Yeah, it certainly does. Him and Drummond being out, running Gershon Yabusele and Adem Bona at the 5, Paul George at the 5. It's just not working out. And I like Nick Richards, carved out a nice little career for himself being a second-round pick. Not a guy that you're going to give the ball to in the post and tell him go to work, I'll get you a bucket. But he's going to run the floor hard. He's athletic. He really crashes the offensive glass, which the Sixers intended to bring in when they signed Andre Drummond, a great rebounder, and he is, but he just hasn't been on the floor a whole lot because he's been injured so much this season. So Nick Richards gives you sort of what Drummond gives you, but Richards is a lot younger, and he's cheap, only, $5 million salary this season, and you have him under contract next season as well. Probably not going to cost a whole lot. The Hornets, of course, not a good team. They're rebuilding, and Richards probably has as much value as he's ever had right now. A little bit of a better season last year, but still been solid this year. I think, couple second-round picks probably gets it done. And probably the Suns have a lot of interest in Nick Richards. There's been some stuff connecting Phoenix to that center, but the Suns don't really have any picks to trade. So, if the Hornets are sitting there wanting to move Nick Richards, Sixers do have some options. Not giving up a first for him, of course, by any means, but you have some second-round picks you can flip for him, sort of as a Band-Aid, especially if you do find out this Embiid injury and this Drummond injury are more serious and they're going to be out longer than you initially thought because they are getting dominated on the interior, dominated on the glass. They could use a energy effort guy here like Nick Richards in the roster.
Yeah, Nick Richards would bring that to the Sixers roster, and we'll see what happens during this gauntlet stretch. If the Sixers, win some games, then they'll be buyers at the deadline. If they start losing all these games, they could be sellers at the deadline. So what say you? Should the Sixers trade for Nick Richards? T for trade, P for pass, as we always want you to do. Let your voices be heard here on the show.